I woke up this morning at Legion's Con, all bummed out that the whole thing was over. The amazing weekend, seeing all my friends and just really gathering to celebrate Four Horsemen and some amazing reveals, including that crazy dragon. But all bummed out because I got to drive home 4 hours and, get back home and wait another year for Legion's Con. But lo and behold, I have a box from Four Horsemen Studios sitting at my door waiting for me, and this is the next Figura Obscura. Presumably, I actually have no idea because I don't know what it is yet, but presumably this will be the next Christmas or holiday themed or winter themed, seasonal type of release. I usually share my predictions, but I got a couple that I saw actually today. Somebody had put up in the Figura Obscura Cabal Facebook group a prediction of their own. And this was Jesus Escobar, who said, I've seen some speculation about what the holiday Figura Obscura will be, but what about the Nutcracker? That would be very interesting. I would actually be so down with that. Anything that I can use as a Christmas decoration, I think is just fantastic. And I'm going to read some of the other predictions. What I'm going to do is, share. Then after that, I'll share like what I think it's going to be, and then also what I hope it is. Okay, so we'll see if those things coincide. So let's see here. So Adam Condi says, I'm thinking Ghosts of Christmas Past, because remember last year they had the book, right? And at the end of the book for the Stave 1, A Christmas Carol, it said, "You will be haunted again. The ghosts of Christmas shall return." I don't know how many people picked up on that, but they're coming back. Are they coming back this year? I don't know. But perhaps. Let's see who else has some predictions. So that was Adam. Brent Rhaegar says, that's a pretty cool idea. I'd personally really, really like an elf or a sugar plum fairy. Then we have Curtis Weaver predicting the Mouse King. And let's see here. So that would be, like somebody, this is a comment on a post for the Nutcracker, and then the Mouse King is from the Nutcracker. Let's see. Nutcracker versus Mouse King 2-pack, James Lynch. We had Miguel Acuna saying, I have a huge collection of Nutcrackers, and this would be a dream. What else do we have here? Slacker Guy says that he hopes it would be another character from the life and adventures of Santa Claus, which is what the, with the Father Christmas was based on, right? And then also, predictions like Rankin Bass, probably not going to be something licensed like that. I think that would have to be licensed. What else do we have? We have Teal Titan predicts Medusa, so not a holiday themed one. And Teal Titan says, wouldn't be surprised if it's Medusa with the new body that they revealed, the snake body. I think it's too soon for that body per se, but it could be. You never know. Maybe they've been tooling this thing up for the Figura. But I would personally think, my prediction is going to be Ghost of Christmas Past as well. I think they're to come back to it. Maybe not. I mean, and if they don't, I think that I would personally want like an abominable snowman, like something that's not necessarily like specifically Christmas related, but is appears in some Christmas stories and things like that. But those are my two: Ghost of Christmas Past, abominable snowman, and let's crack this thing open. Pardon me, I'm pretty exhausted. Legion's Con, but there's zero chance of me like sleeping a night with this thing in my house without actually opening it up. So here we go. Let's crack this thing open. By the way, it is a pretty standard sized looking box. So like a single figure is what it would be. So people who are predicting like all three of the ghosts would be done at once, this cannot be that, right? This is just not big enough. All right, here we go. I have not seen this thing yet. Pulling it out of the box. It's all wrapped up. And we have The Ghost of Christmas Past. Take a look at that. All right. And I've said this before. I think that that A Christmas Carol is probably one of my all-time favorite books. It's really excellent. I know it's like pop culture at this point, but like the actual book is fantastic. So it's gonna be hard for me to kind of show it really well, but we've got the box here. Of course, we've got that on the back. I'm sure there's gonna be another book going on here. So Stave 2, where we have Ghost of Christmas Past. The light coming out of the head. You've got this sort of weird agelessness about this character, right? Like it's described as both childlike and old with like silver hair, but like a childlike face. Yeah. Okay. So let me open this box. Let me see if I can I can do it with my hands. Of course, we have Nate's amazing art. Got to spend some time with Nate this past weekend at Legions Con. Beautiful artwork here. There it is without the glare. We've got some more art on the side here. We've got that on that side. And then opening it up, beautiful. It's like an elf essentially. Look at that. Let's see here. Beautiful new head sculpt. There's sort of like some crystal-like clear translucent pieces coming out of the head, and this is the ghost that takes him back to old Fezziwig. So there's, I'm assuming, old Fezziwig's house, estate, school, whatever you want to call that. And yeah, this is pretty sweet. Got a lot of nice new cloth goods, multiple head sculpts, multiple faces. Some of them have like that aged thing where it's like sort of looks young, sort of looks old. There's a lamppost over here on the side, has the little toppers to snuff out the light. And yeah, I'm curious if we're gonna get a light up feature. I don't think so the way that looks, but that would be kind of interesting. That would be a first for the Horsemen, right? Actually, no, they've done have they done light ups in some of the accessories? I can't remember, but yeah. All right. And then here's a look at, oh my God, old Fezziwig is Jim Preziosi. Look at that. Jim right there. That's hilarious. So it's like everyone from Jeremy Gerard. Look at Jeremy Gerard with the arms over on the side over here. Yeah, you got the whole crew over here. That's hilarious. Oh my God. So funny. Amazing. I got to go through and see who everybody is on the fly. It's a little tough, but Cookie's there playing a fiddle. Looks like. Is that Walter? Is that Walter right there? I think that might be Walter. Is there anything else? Any other? There's got to be a bunch of other fun little Easter eggs, but I'm kind of rambling at this point. So yes, The Ghost of Christmas Past, pretty amazing, building out that storyline. Thanks again, Four Horsemen, and let's get this thing on the table and check it out. DorkLair, welcome. Here we go. Out of the box, we have The Ghost of Christmas Past, and this thing is wild. It has the craziest, wispy, almost like translucent soft goods. It's got those four arms, and just all of it kind of comes together to give it that like shifting, phasing feel that the ghost has in the book. I really honestly, like when they first said they were going to do the other ghosts, I was like, maybe they'll do The Ghost of Christmas Past and The Ghost of Christmas Present together in a 2-pack or some kind of set, because I didn't know how they're gonna make it tangible enough to like justify a singular figure, and they did. They turned it into this female, like it's really not referenced as male or female, I don't think, in the book, but they oftentimes it's depicted one way or the other. But here it has a very angelic, elf-like quality, but it meets the expectation of it being like simultaneously young, like super childlike, and then also very old with the gray hair. You're going to see the alternate head sculpts capture that as well. They give it this like old decayed look. Some silver bits on there, so just like a couple little like details in the cloth, and then the silver belt. And of course, you have this amazing crown with this fading colors. You've got the cappers, or the, you know, the whatever, the caps that snuff out the light that comes out of the top of her head. The crystals there kind of representing that light, and you could totally shine some light in there in a certain way to make those light up if you wanted to display it or photograph it that way. Comes with a sprig of holly. Also comes with a diorama piece. We've really grown used to these Victorian diorama pieces. I'll give a closer look. It's hard to see it in this opening shot because the figure is so bright that everything else has to kind of be in the dark to get the figure to look right. But I'll give a closer look at all that stuff when we get into the accessories. Of course, we also have the amazing packaging, always an essential part of these releases. A very angelic looking Ghost of Christmas Past on the cover. And then you have, you know, the typical side where you have what I'm assuming is going to be similar to what the pin will end up being on the side there. And then the write-up, Jeremy's copy on the back. It looks like this is straight up excerpt from the book this time around. And of course, the Ghost of Christmas Past takes Scrooge back to his first job or his schooling with old Fezziwig, who is a generous man. And you have this kind of jovial moment of this past life at Christmas time, and that's depicted on the box with the kids in the snow, and we have that, I'm assuming, is Fezziwig's, you know, establishment there. And so yeah, so beautiful winter scene on the box, on the outer box. And I absolutely cackled with joy when I opened up the wraparound to see Jim as Fezziwig. Jim Preziosi, Fezziosi, Prezziwig, right in the middle there. And some of the other members of the studio. I believe we have Vern on the left, and then we have Cameron. I believe Jeremy said that the woman in yellow is Jim's wife. We've got Cookie, whose I believe his birthday is Christmas Day. And then Walter, we have Jeremy over there looking on with distaste in a very Scrooge-like manner, which is just cracking me up because it's essentially a meme at this point with Jeremy in the crossed arms. But wonderful, wonderful piece with that centerpiece there. And the final piece to the packaging is the backdrop that goes behind the plastic insert, which has a scene in Scrooge's room where you have sort of light coming through the window. So you could potentially like pose this figure in front of this as a diorama piece, or it could just be sort of an abstract version or a moment where the ghost is abstract and just appearing. As usual, we do get a booklet, mini comic sized booklet version of an excerpt from the book. So this is the entirety of Stave 2. We had Stave 1 with the Ghost of Jacob Marley. The inside, you have the credits over here. And then you have the text of the story throughout, interspersed with Nate's artwork. And yeah, and one of the cool pieces is that we get this scene, which is the wraparound box. So you get to kind of see this all together, which is, it's really cool to see it all in one shot and not have to like kind of unfold the box or something like that. But yeah, most of the rest of the art is all in here throughout at different parts of it. Zooming in for a close-up of this beautiful head sculpt, you know, you have that very mix of youth-like features of the ghost and then also of like an aged thing with that silver gray hair, and then you've got the light coming out of the head. So you have these like clear plastic crystal formations, and then you have like almost flame-like branches coming off there to sort of come together and form this crown, and as well as a crown of roses in silver along there with some green accents throughout. So there's just like, there's a lot going on with this particular head sculpt with this crown. And there's also a hair piece that like you can have the various faces without the crown. So you do have the option to go without the crown, but it's not itself removable. It's a separate full hair piece that I'll show you when we get into the accessories. But beautiful. I think this is a new hair piece. I don't think it's the exact same one that we've seen So like if I take Thrace here and we take a look at Thrace, it's right. It's a completely different sculpt. Now I'm not sure if one of the other figures maybe has the same hair, but I'm pretty sure this is a unique sculpt for the hair here, even though it's got some similar qualities to it. And then sort of a close up of the eyes, which are very clean on mine as far as I can tell. There's a little bit of like, so the flesh tone is interesting. It's very ghostly. It's very pale, but it does have some life in it. It has some flesh tones. So there's some subtle like shading going on, and you can see that even in the arms. Maybe you can see it. It's really hard to capture on camera like this. So kind of cranking the light back a little, but yeah, you can see it there. And then in the cloth goods, there's a silver pattern going on, sort of like a floral silver pattern at the top, and then a pattern at the bottom that just kind of gives the clothing just a little something a little more dynamic than just being a solid white color. Although this piece is solid white, so if you want just a look that kind of looks solid white, you could kind of wrap these around. It does have essentially a 3-part cloth goods system, but they're all stitched together. So if you look up top here, there's a cape coming off the top, and then a cape coming down the bottom, and then a regular dress. Then you have a wired silver belt right here, and there's like a little bit of a texture kind of thing going on in those silvers that's kind of hard to capture on the camera. And then one thing that's interesting here is the way they have the backpack set up. So the backpack is how the extra pair of arms are on there. I kind of imagine them being higher up, I think, a little bit, especially when you look at the box art. They're sort of at the same level as the other arms. Maybe it just wasn't possible the way they had it, but I could kind of see this being a little higher up. But if you flip it, which is entirely possible to flip this, it's too high up. They end up being up above her shoulders, and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, not that 4 arms ever truly make sense, but like it just doesn't look good when it's flipped. So I guess if I had one gripe, it's like these arms in the back are just, they maybe sit a little too low. But once you start posing them and getting all the arms sort of in play, it kind of works itself out. And I'll show you sort of the rest of the body underneath once I take the figure apart. But as you can see, there's legs, and there's a new sort of like belt piece under here that is like a cover up. It's effectively the same as the usual Mythic Legions belts, but it's just basically something to cover the like this stuff, the very mechanical looking stuff, to give it a little more natural shape, like under the dress there. And then, so we have fully bare legs, fully bare arms. I mean, this is a customizer's dream. You're getting 2 sets of those bare arms, which is pretty sweet. And bare legs all the way down to bare feet. So this is another fully bare human body, essentially, even though it's not a human. It's the colors are ghostly, but a repaint would, turn this into a human or whatever kind of like humanoid you want it to be. And there's the feet there. So ultimately, this is a pretty straightforward figure. It's got quite a few new parts, maybe some pieces shared with Bastet, but it's a pretty straightforward 2.0 body. The neat thing is it's got the extra arms. This is a customizer's dream, right? Like you got 4 arms and 2 sets of arms with this figure, this backpack here. And the cloth goods are really what kind of bring this to a new level. I mean, just kind of like look at the way they capture light, and it's really cool. It gives it that kind of shifty, almost shifting in and out of existence kind of feel that a ghost should have. So nicely done there. And here's a look at the Ghost of Christmas Past, all zoomed out in a neutral position so you can get a full look at the entire figure, which comes to about 6.5 inches to the top of the head and almost 8 inches to the top of the crown. And of course, for comparisons, we got to start things off with some other Christmas-themed Figura Obscura figures. On the left, we have the Ghost of Jacob Marley, also from A Christmas Carol. And on the right, we have Father Christmas, which interestingly is also on a 2.0 style body, but is a little bit shorter. So it'll be interesting to pull the figure apart and see what the Ghost of Christmas Past has going on, making it taller than a regular 2.0 figure. Next, we have Krampus on the left. It's hard to believe that we are now 4 years deep into Figura Obscura, because we had Krampus, then we had Father Christmas, then last year we had Jacob Marley, and now we have the Ghost of Christmas Past. 4 years is just crazy to me. And then on the right, we have another ghostly type character, the Mask of the Red Death. And then one more Figura Obscura comparison. Here we have the gods of ancient Egypt, and of course the Bastet figure definitely feels like it's right in line. I'm assuming a lot of the parts are the same from those two figures. And then next we have a couple ghost-themed Mythic Legions figures. On the left is Hagnon, the second release, the blue Hagnon, and on the right is the Umengeist, known as Thrace Wraithhaler. And for some other Christmas-themed figures outside of Four Horsemen Studios, here we have the Fresh Monkey Fiction Pirate Santa with the candy cane hook, which is just my absolute favorite thing about that line. It's so good. And those figures are great. That is a fantastic line of Christmas-themed Santa Claus action figures. And then on the right, we have the Mezco 112 Collective Holiday Gomez. Next up, here she is with some popular female figures from other lines. On the left, we have the Hasbro Classified Lady J, and on the right, we have the Frazetta Girls Icons Tigra from the Fire and Ice line. And just two more female characters. On the left is the substantially smaller Catwoman from the 112 Collective, and on the right is the substantially taller Tyrus Flare from the Storm Collectibles Golden Axe line. And for those of you who may not have any of those other lines, a couple very popular lines here. On the left is a Marvel Legends figure. That is the Green Goblin from the Retro series. And then on the right is Thrawn from the Star Wars Black series. For accessories, I did want to point out that it has 3 faces and 2 different hair pieces. So you could theoretically make 6 different looks with this. You could do 3 different faces on this piece and 3 different faces on this piece, or you have 2 full heads that you could use, and then an extra face. And so let me show you what these look like on the figure. And just real quick, there's a look at the shape of the plug that's in there, and then the head just kind of goes up inside there, and you gotta fidget around with it a little bit to get it to sit right, but once it's in, it looks pretty good. So again, here's the regular youthful face on that crown head. And here's the regular youthful face with just the hair. And then the second face is a sort of half decayed, half ghoulish kind of thing with one eye whited out. And that's how it looks with the crown hair sculpt. And there's the half decayed face with the regular hair sculpt. And then a third almost fully decayed, like both sides of the face have some decay on them. And there's that one with the crown, and there it is without the crown. And even though the figure comes with the extra arms on it already, I would consider these to be an accessory as well. So you're getting 2 extra arms in this new backpack piece, and this is how the figure looks without them. So you can totally go with just like a regular human type body if you would like. The crown represents the light coming out of the head in the story, and sometimes that light is so strong that the Ghost of Christmas Past snuffs it out with a capper thing and sort of like wears a cap. And it's kind of silly, but like this is kind of a throwback to the book specifically, in that the character wears this cone-like candle snuff thing on the head. And so they have one that's like this that you could have it wear, and then they have one that is a more like a staff that maybe that you could see somebody using to put out candles that way, a little more kind of like a little more realistic, I guess. Also for accessories, she has a variety of interchangeable hands. This is a pair of gesturing hands that have horizontal hinges. She has a pair of fists with horizontal hinges. She has a pair of gripping hands with vertical hinges. She has a pair of gripping hands with horizontal hinges. And she has a pair of clawing hands with horizontal hinges for a total of 5 sets of hands. She's also got this very detailed, very small little piece of holly that she can hold in her hand as well. Like many of the other Figura Obscuras, this one does come with a diorama piece. It is a Victorian era street lamp with a little like piece of the ground attached to it. There's no peg hole, but it's like a flat piece of cobblestone and a little snowy area with a lamppost. And I zoomed it out so that you kind of get a sense of how it looks with the Ghost of Christmas Past. And then here's a close-up of that floor piece. It's sort of a nicely detailed cobblestone with some snow, like kind of in the cracks there, and snow piled up around the base of the lamp here that just kind of fits in with tension. And as we kind of brighten it up here, you can see how this piece looks right here. So pretty nice, nice diorama piece, continuing the tradition of having these like Victorian, dio pieces that come with all these various Figura Obscura figures. Okay, for articulation, starting with the head, we do have that hinged neck, which does help get some really downward looking angles. The hair is going to kind of come up in the back there, but if you have the cape flowing out, it doesn't really, you can kind of fudge with it and get it to look pretty good. It's not going to look up a ton because of, the hair is going to stop it in the back, but that hinge does help a lot with some of that range of motion. And of course, the hair is soft enough where you can turn it in a lot of different directions and get a decent amount of expression out of that head sculpt. For arm articulation, got a lot of range moving upward this way, and then you can swing that swivel all the way around. Single jointed elbow comes up to just about 90 degrees, and there is a twist at that elbow as well. I think one of the reasons why they actually ended up going with the double jointed elbows on the figures, especially with the 1.0 ones, is that when they were re-engineering the arms, they didn't quite get the range they were hoping to, whereas they were able to get it with the they got a good amount of range with the Knight body, with the Valiant Knight and so on. I don't think they got where they wanted to be with those 1.0 bodies. So they revamped them for that Rise or Reign of the Beasts wave. And so maybe down the road they could consider, if it works out, I imagine they'll probably consider it for the 2.0 bodies, because they're just not quite hitting, even these new ones, they're not quite hitting that range we would like to see. And then being a 2.0 body, it does have that upper torso ball joint, and I'll take the figure apart and like show it to you with the clothing off of it, just so that you can get a look. It does have a swivel at the waist, no ball joint there. And then you have in the legs, you have a hinge out and a swivel forward. And then you have a twist at the top of the thigh. It is a traditional thigh twist. It's just very hidden on these 2.0 bodies. Single jointed knee comes up to about 90 degrees. There's a twist below the knee. Mine's a little tight there. And then you have a hinge, twist, and rocker at that ankle. Next up, I'm going to do some popping and swapping. I don't have quite as extensive a library of 2.0 figures, and I don't love popping and swapping 2.0s as much as I do the ones. So this will probably be just a couple swaps. Starting off here, of course, with the bear figure, the briefs, basically the hips here, that is an overlay piece. It's essentially the same mechanism as any typical skirt. It's just a little, form-fitting, just to kind of cover that area and give it some shape instead of it being a peg hole for the loincloth, right? Like that kind of like fills out that area. And then you have the upper part, the bra or like the tube top area, that is essentially sculpted in to that upper torso. So that you can't like remove that or mess around with it much unless you get into like some heavier customizing. So if you're going to take that torso and use it with that neck, with that hinge, right, like you're going to need to sort of incorporate that bra with it. The rest of the body, fully bare, right? It can be a little tricky with those forearms because that is one piece from elbow to wrist, whereas other figures, when you're popping and swapping, it's a it's an elbow, and then you have a bracer area, like the forearm area. It's like two separate pieces. So mixing this with other figures can get a little tricky. You'll generally want to take the whole arm with it. But this is a great looking female human, pretty much bare body that the horsemen have now at this point. And I forgot to mention this in the beginning part of the video. I may have briefly touched on it, but there are also a couple swag items available. There's a mug, a pin, and then there's t-shirts. I don't have the pictures of the t-shirts yet, so go check those out on Retro Rags. You should be able to link straight to them from the Store Horseman site as well, and it'll take you to Retro Rags to buy the shirts. But yeah, so there's a mug, a pin, an all-in option for this as well. And then my first swap here is just a simple head swap, which I think the color-wise, it's kind of like perfect match here, and that is taking the head from the Ghost of Christmas Past and putting it on Thalen Frostbow, and it just seemed so obvious, and it just made so much sense that I had to do it, and I think it looks fantastic. And then next up is a bit of an incomplete swap. I'm having trouble figuring out what head I would want to use, but here's an example of taking those limbs and bringing them over to like another figure and bringing some other parts in there. This is Mbira Jimjira's upper torso and belt, and then it's also Artemis Silvercord's skirt and loincloth piece there. So kind of coming together. I know I've used this setup before for some other figures that I've done some pop and swaps with, but I do really like the way that upper torso on Mbira looks with these arms and that, the rest of that body there. So the only thing is I haven't figured out a great option for a head, so I just have this head on there. Obviously, you could pop that hair on, but it kind of covers up what those shoulders look like with that Mbira torso, which is what I kind of wanted to show off. So, if you found one of those helmeted heads that kind of worked, like a nice green or something, or even paint one yourself, which wouldn't be too hard, this is a pretty cool look right here. And then finally, we're going cross-line pollination here. This is the D13 Angel Wings that came with the one of the 3 holiday figures, 2024 D13 Holiday Angels. And so these wings, actually, they peg directly in and they fit. Like, there's no modifications. They just fit perfectly. And size-wise and everything, it looks great. Obviously, like, the hair gets a little, like, there's a lot of business going on in the back between having that cloth goods kind of come up over the wing and then having the hair come back up over that as well. But yeah, this, I think between this wing set and the silver belt, like, this all kind of comes together to be just this fantastic angel. I mean, I could see this just on the top of a Christmas tree. As always, Figura Obscura is Four Horsemen at their finest. They are hitting on all aspects, from the design to the sculpture to the artwork and the box art and the photography, and every kind of aspect of it is all hands on deck. And just another great one. This one might not be as flashy or as blingy as some of the other ones, but I really like the way they were successfully able to kind of recreate this very abstract almost type of character. So really nice job there, and a lot of great options here for customizers with the extra arms, the multiple faces, and the hair pieces and so on. So another fantastic Figura. Let's kick off this holiday season. Happy holidays, everybody. And until next time, may the force be with you.